Hello viewers, in today's video we will try to understand how Relaxo became the Chappal King of India. But before we get to today's video, if you are someone who loves to keep tabs on what's going on in the world of business and finance, why aren't you subscribed yet? A white sword, a blue strap in the shape of a Y, all made using rubber. Do you have an image? Well, of course we do. It's a ubiquitous Hawaii chapel, a staple of every home in India. It's cheap and durable. It can weather the Indian monsoons with ease, and it is usually the weapon of choice to kill that pesky cockroach. It's like the Swiss army knife of footwear. And India can thank Bata for this. They introduced these rubber slippers or flip flops all the way back in the 1950s. They marketed it under the brand name Hawaii, and it is now a generic name for slippers. But if you are a curious soul with a particular interest in footwear, you would probably have noticed something else too. The name embossed on most of these blue straps isn't Bata, it's Relaxo. Over the past few decades, this company has stamped its authority as a Chappal King of India. It can churn out 10 lakhs of slippers every day. In fact, a report by Centrum states that 13% of India's annual footwear production capacity comes from Relaxo alone. It's a big deal. But how did Relaxo get there? Well, you would have to go back to the 1970s when the Dua family, the current promoters of Relaxo, inherited a family business that manufactured cycle parts and footwear. Ramesh Dua, the current managing director, was only 17 years old and dreamt of becoming a doctor. But the business accumulated a lot of debt and it needed a steady hand. It needed a new leader. And that is when Ramesh Dua answered the call. However, he soon realized that cycle parts business wasn't entirely profitable. He believed that the company's future lay somewhere else in rubber footwear. And being the smart young man that he was, he also realized he needed to learn a lot more about rubber, the key raw material that would sway the fortunes of the company. So he packed his bags and headed to the Plastics and Rubber Institutes in the UK. In 1975, when the Indian government imposed emergency rule, things became little dicey. The government was uh, after everyone in the country, and once again he noticed something interesting. The only store that remained open without fear in Delhi happened to be of his competitor Bata. And when he asked them how they had kept their shutters open, they pointed to their brand value. And that's when Dua realized that they needed a brand too. In 1976, Relaxo, the brand, was born. Anyway, Relaxo truly made its mark by focusing on three things. Firstly, a simple realization that the business is practically recession proof. So, what do we mean by that? Well, everyone needs chappals and it's low cost. The average selling price for Relaxo is only 135 to 150. Remember, that's including all its products, premium chappals and sneakers. Find a branded organized player that sells a chappal for cheaper on Amazon. It is very hard, and that means Relaxo's products take a very tiny sliver of your disposable income, which explains why the customers are relatively sticky. A case in point is the pandemic. Between FY20 and 21, Bata's sales dipped by 44%. Metro shoes dropped by 38%, and Khadim's also fell by 19%. Relaxo sales, on the other hand, just saw a tiny drop of 2%. That's it. Secondly, according to fund manager Saurav Mukherjee, Relaxo took a counter initiative call. They decided to manufacture everything in house. They used their historic expertise in the plastic business and turned it to their advantage. While everyone else outsourced manufacturing, Relaxo knew that it made sense for them to hold their cards close to their chest. Today, Relaxo manufactures 95% of its products in its own factories while Bata outsources over 50% of its production. This also allowed Relaxo to really scale up its manufacturing. Also, unlike its peers, Relaxo tapped into a distribution network to penetrate the market far and wide. Bata stuck to its own branded retail stores. And finally, you have to remember that people's disposable income began rising rather disproportionately after liberalization, and Relaxo needed to portray itself as an aspirational brand, even if it was just selling chappals. So it spent heavily on advertising. It roped in Bollywood biggies like Salman Khan, Katrina Kaif, Akshay Kumar to prance about on the telly wearing chappals. It worked, and its brand recall boomed. Essentially, Relaxo built a Chappal monopoly and it sells 18 crores chappals a year now. And the last 2 decades have been quite phenomenal for the company. In FY 2003, it had revenues of just 150 crores. In FY 13, it mushroomed to 1010 crores, and in FY 22, it had soared to 2600 crores. Sure, the past looks great, but what about the future? Okay, first, the two bright spots. One, it's the typical under-penetration argument. Indians don't own enough footwear, and when they buy more, it will benefit companies like Relaxo. For instance, India's per capita footwear use is a measly 1.9, and that's well below developed countries like the US and UK, where it stands at 7. And two, over 62% of the footwear market in India is still in the unorganized sector, but it has been tapering from the 80% share that it used to command. Demonetization, GST, and even COVID have all knocked the wind out of the unorganized players. Gradually, as many shut shop, the tailwinds are likely to benefit Relaxo. Okay, that's all well and good, but what about its problems? Well, there are issues. Primarily, inflation. See, rubber and plastic derivatives are important inputs in the manufacturing process. So, when inflation strikes the commodities market, it hits Relaxo too. For instance, the price of the raw material ethylene vinyl acetate has jumped by 3 times this year. That means Relaxo has had to pass on the cost to its customers. In FY 22 alone, it has already increased prices by 25%, and that's the highest jump in a single year in Relaxo's history. Also, the government tweaked the GST rates this year, and for footwear price between 1000, the rates have increased from 5% to 12%, which is an increase of 7%. Naturally, any price increase hurts sales, especially in such an uncertain economic environment. But there are long term risks too. People are increasingly looking at more premium products. See, the mass market footwear segment that's priced below 500 is expected to see a drop in the market share from 56% to 51% over FY 15 to FY 25. And since over two-thirds of Relaxo's sales come from this category, there could be some trouble. For investors, the question they have to answer is, can Relaxo hold on to its Chappal monopoly, or is it the stock that has already priced to perfection? What do you think? Until then, have a great day. Thanks for watching. Bye bye.